What's up guys, hope you're doing great. This is your boy Copy Shots. In today's video, we're going to look at how we brought the kitchen into the studio and we filmed a food commercial. Let's get right into it. This commercial took longer to shoot than we thought we would actually spend on it, because we realized that it took us almost the entire day. Literally almost the entire day, though there were some inconveniences here and there, but still, when we were done, in fact, the cook herself was totally exhausted, but we had to actually finish it up because we were working with food and almost all our ingredients were perishable. So it didn't stand any chance of reshooting or retaking or whatsoever. So getting right into how we filmed it all, let's start off with the lighting. My lighting focused on two things here. In the background, as well as, of course, what's very apparent towards the camera, which is the setup on the table. And because this was a commercial, I had to make sure that everything in my frame actually made a lot of sense. Okay, so I put a prop in the background, and the backdrop that I used in the background was brown in color, so I needed to bring some bit of character because brown was kind of dark because I didn't have my key light, which was coming from above, which was sent to me by Ambitful, the softbox, and the light that was within it was concentrating just directly on the table where the camera was pointing at the food, the setup, where the ingredients were and where the cook was chopping down the ingredients and preparing the fire for the food. Okay, so my background needed to have character, so I blasted one LED light against the prop, which was the plant, to create some shadows and to also have the light seep through it and hit the backdrop to make it look appealing, because even though the cook was standing right in front of the camera, you could still see a little bit of the background, and it had to look much more with character and not have a blank black look which has nothing in it. So basically I had three lights from my lighting setup: the light that was coming from above, the one that was hitting the background, and of course a backlight, because I love backlighting. Anytime I shoot any type of video whatsoever the subject may be, I always have a backlight to bring much more character and to carve out the subject out of the background, regardless of how distracting or not distracting my background may be. I always need a backlit kind of lighting configuration, and so that's what I actually use for this particular setup as well. And it was to rim my subject's hands as well as the food, so that it would stand out and have that form of a 3D character. You get what I mean? So the light that was coming from above was soft, and I had the grid right in front of it so that I could really much more narrow the light and hit just one area and not spill against the background or anything else. So my subject had a tough time finding herself, a little bit not getting into the way of the light, because the light was too close to the setup, and so she had to manage to see as well as cause the activity with her hands. Okay, so as she was chopping, my light was very close so that I could actually have a lot of light hitting the setup, and because I was further separating the platform where the food was much more from the background, I needed to keep my light very close and reduce the light intake that my camera was taking. And with that said, let us talk about my camera setup. I used the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, and I had in front of it an 18 to 35mm 1.8 Sigma art lens, and that was basically what I used throughout the shoot. I needed a lot of shallow depth of field, and so I needed a fast lens, and so I chose this lens because it shoots as wide as 1.8, and that was just for it. In addition to my camera setup, I used a tripod. I didn't use any gimbal, any stabilization other than the tripod. And from time to time, I would use my hand, shoot handheld, to get to the place where I couldn't get the tripod to go. And so those close-ups that I couldn't zoom in all the way, I had to actually create some proximity to be very close to the action. And so I shot a lot of angles with the same camera, just one camera setup. No multiple cameras, it was just one camera setup. So in the middle of the activity, I can ask the chef or the cook to stop in the middle of it, get myself in the right position and shoot as I went. And so it was just like that. We were stopping in the way, and also having in mind that our ingredients were perishable, and so we had to be very fast as we went. We didn't have a lot of samples of the ingredients, and so we didn't have to take chances. We just had to keep on going, and we basically didn't really have any planned out or written out scripts that would direct us as we go. But we still went ahead with it because I just needed to understand what the cook was going to do at what point, if she was going to chop the tomatoes or she was going to chop something else. I should know in between times so I could determine where would be best I stood to take that shot, with what angle and what kind of lighting configuration that would suit it best. The most interesting thing about this whole shoot was that we actually brought the whole kitchen into the studio, and if we don't tell you, or we had no behind the scenes coverage over what we did, as you're seeing right now, it'll be very difficult to convince someone that we actually brought the kitchen into the studio. And I'm actually proud of that. It was daunting before because we had to move a whole cylinder for fuel for the gas stove, and so we needed a lot of hands, and we were fortunate enough to have people around to help us out. And of course, what you're seeing right now, the behind the scenes, we needed someone to actually cover that up, and that was exactly what we did. And to talk about what I learned throughout, I would say that this was basically one not so challenging but a very interesting learning curve for me, because I went against all odds to bring an entire kitchen to the studio where we actually brought fuel, which was combustible and wasn't really safe. But I would say that we had a blast because we learned a lot and we were much careful as we shot, and we tried our best to not take chances, even though we had a lot of constraints, but we still had to get us done. And that was what was most important here, because I felt that we had to do it, and because we've already started, we had to get it done. You understand? And that's what perseverance and the passion was all about, because the subject herself was passionate about what she was doing, and I was also passionate about getting the right shots. And just as you see it right now, this was a wonderful outcome, and I really love the results as much as the client did. So basically, that was how we went about bringing the whole kitchen into a studio, lighting it up, shooting with different configurations as well as great angles from the camera. And for the most part, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. If you also enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't, turn on the post notification button so that every time I upload a new video over here on my YouTube channel, you'll be the first to be notified and also see it. Until the next video, I'm going to catch you later. Have a wonderful day. See ya.